painted faces and long hair. And the whole idea of thinking of like boys with haircuts, how often they get it done and why they get it done so often is to look clear cut. And that phrase really means like very civilized and acceptable to society. That's why we cut our hair, right? So that we're accepted by society and others. Now, they're on this island, they don't really have much choice about that. So think about as their hair is getting longer, could that also be an indication of their thoughts or their activities also getting less civilized? And then we're going to pair that with painted faces. um, we don't know yet, like exactly what this will mean, but think of why people might paint their face, what it might mean if they wear a mask or paint their face. So these chapter titles can be very helpful to at least think about before we start reading it. So we learn in the first few paragraphs that, you know, the swing of dawn to dusk, that all of nature has to follow the cycles of what light and darkness um, demand of them, and even heat. So, like the best time to go hunting would be early in the morning because the deer are up and moving and looking for their breakfast. But in midday, like around 12 or 1, just like it says here, toward noon, when it's so hot, everything sort of beds down to go to sleep. So animals eat what's called crepuscular at dawn and dusk. And these boys on this island, this chapter begins these two paragraphs talking about how these boys now have to follow these cycles of nature also. So again, we're getting a little bit further away from the civilized, we can eat what we want, like it says, the northern tradition of work and play. They could do it food right through the day was not possible on this island. So they're getting further and further away, just like their hair is indicating, further and further away from civilization. The little boys, about 6 years old, are called little ones. No one is taking care of them. They're kind of left to their own devices. They're eating fruit that's unripe. No one's monitoring them or helping them. In fact, one of them, Percival, cried for 2 days in a shelter, talking and singing, basically having a breakdown, and nobody goes in to comfort him. It's just not being done. So no one's looking out for them. So now we get this incident where the little ones are down there building their castles, doing their thing, and two older boys, Roger and Maurice, come out of the forest. They're done working the fire for that day, and they walk right through the castles and kick them apart. Let's find that slide. They walk right through the castles. Getting close here. Kick them apart. And there would be consequences if that happened here, right? There'd be an adult that would say, you can't do that. You need to apologize, the whole bit. And it's interesting that in Maurice's mind, because the little Percival gets some sand in his eye and he starts crying. It's interesting that Maurice's immediate reaction was to run away and start forming a reason in his mind, an excuse as to why he did that. So he's very much this knee-jerk reaction from being in society. But here on this island, there is no one to enforce that. So it's going to be interesting to see what will happen when nobody is there to say, hey, you shouldn't have done that, or you need to apologize. Now, Roger stays with them, and it's Henry that goes off, and he's down at the water's edge, and Henry is kind of having fun with these little transparencies. They're little water creatures, and he's dominating them, and he's fascinated by this because he gets to exercise control over a living thing. And I want you to think of that as on a micro scale, that really is what mankind wants to do. On a larger macro scale, the whole world is apparently at war, atom bombs, etc., nuclear war, because they want to dominate each other. So we're seeing it on a small scale in a 6-year-old, but it's also bigger. Now, Roger's involved in that too because he's standing there behind the tree watching, and he starts to throw these rocks at Henry, not on him, but there's about a 6 yard diameter that Roger dare not throw into. So he's just getting close. He's toying with the idea of what if I hit this kid with a rock? Yet there was an invisible yet strong taboo of the old life. Around the child was protection of parents, school, and policemen and the law. Roger's arm, for now, was conditioned by a civilization that knew nothing of him and was in ruins. So the whole idea is what would happen when that is gone. So we go back to our slides. And this idea that even if you're a little 6 year old, you want to dominate or control something like Henry's doing with those figures. And then here's Roger throwing rocks near Henry, but not on him. And then here's just this, you think about what would we do right now if laws and getting in trouble wasn't a consequence, right? What vicious behavior would people do? And what a picture here, Roger, he's probably, as he's throwing these rocks, he's probably imagining what would it sound like, what would it look like when it hits him in the head, when it hits this kid in the head. He's imagining it. This is actually a different part inside of him that we're going to talk about when we get to Freud. But whoa, look at that look. There's something else definitely going on there. Just then Jack comes up, and Jack has some paint and like charcoal from the fire, I guess charcoal, so embers from the fire that he's going to rub on his face. And he's working on creating a mask. Now he says this is for hunting, right? They can't smell me, but they see me. So allegedly this is a mask for hunting, but it turns into something else. So it says there, like, when he creates, he plants his new face, and then he looks, after he's finished, he looks in astonishment, no longer at himself, but at an awesome stranger. Well, why is it so awesome? Is because this figure behind the mask can do things that Jack would have to hide from. This figure with the mask is liberated from shame and self-consciousness because it really is not Jack any longer. It's something else. And so he tells them, let's go hunt. And the mask compelled them or urged them to do it. Right. And when he's dancing around with the other kids with this mask on, they're kind of freaked out by it. All right. Ralph and the others are swimming, chatting here and there. And all of a sudden, Ralph sees smoke on the horizon. Now, we're not talking at this moment about the signal fire. We're talking about on the horizon, just a little blue line of a ship that's out there. Ralph, where's the ship? And then, of course, Piggy's very concerned about this. Do we have any smoke? Are we signaling to it? Have we got any smoke? So Piggy's really worried about this, and Ralph it seems like potentially there's not much signal coming off the signal fire. So Ralph immediately runs up there. Piggy is just in a panic, and they get up there and come to find out the ship is gone. The fire is out. There's nobody there attending to it. This desperate, come back, come back, come back. They let the fire go out. Well, where are they? And in on cue, almost walking, is a procession of the boys painted up, chanting as they carry a bundle of something. And they're chanting, kill the pig, cut her throat, spill her blood. And they walk up, and Jack is very proud of himself. We killed a pig, we stole it, we got in a circle, we crept up. Everyone who went was very excited about it, and Ralph is very serene. You let the fire go out. Yeah, well, it was only out for a little bit of time. It was really great fun what we did. I got to cut the pig's throat, says Jack, right? He finally got what he wanted. He really wanted to get this kill in. We're going to go hunting every day. They're just so adrenaline rush. Again, Ralph says, you let the fire go out. He's like, yeah, well, we needed everybody. It's not a big thing. We can light it up again. But Ralph says there was a ship out there. And this affects everybody. And Jack realizes he's made a big oopsie. And the only person he can really take it out on is Piggy. And Piggy's saying, you and your blood, Jack Merridew, you and your hunting. And so Ralph goes after him, punches him, and then smacks his face and breaks one of his glasses, his lenses. And then they all have a feast. And Ralph says you need to restart the fire, but Ralph won't move from where he's standing. So that means Jack has to figure out a new place to light it, like 3 yards to another direction. And so that asserts Ralph's dominance, right? He gave an order, it was obeyed. All right, light the fire, he says, right? Ralph asserted his chieftainship. Okay, so then of course Jack needs the means to light it, which is Piggy's glasses. So Ralph is the go-between. He goes over, gets the glasses, they light the fire, and then they have this feast. And of course now Jack is trying to exercise his dominance, because that's what it's about, right? About his dominance. And he doesn't give Piggy any food, saying you didn't hunt. Simon gives Piggy his food, and then Jack gets upset, but he gives Simon more food. Eat, damn you, he says. Ralph can feel things are kind of out of tune. So, and they're starting to reenact the hunting that they did. This is getting very primal. They're reliving it. This is more than just for food. This is it fulfilling another need, just like that mask that Jack put on himself is not just about camouflage. It is about something more. And Ralph says, I'm calling an assembly. He can feel things going in a sideways direction. And he says, we need to meet. We need to talk about this. So let's just see if there's any other slides here. So we have this very eerie one. Yep, he makes his mask, paints his face. Think about what you'd do if you were in disguise. Nobody would know it was really you. And Jack feels liberated under it. He lets the fire go out. They miss their chance for rescue. Piggy's glasses, because he's attacked. So this is survival of the fittest also. Jack is stronger. Piggy's the weakest. Does it just because he can. So he forces Jack to be submissive, rebuild the fire in a different spot. We have tension on the mountain, which I'm going to get to a little bit later. We'll get to the ego, the id, and all of that later. All right.